Well, awesome. Well, we'll go ahead, I think, and just get started with the intro here. You're really here today to listen to Parker. He's the man of the hour today. He's the head of Seek Education. My name is Jon Cheney, and I am the CEO and founder of Seek. And we launched Seek Education, at least the efforts to build it last year when Parker joined us, and then we just officially launched it at an education conference earlier this year in March, and then we made it free during this pandemic for everybody to try and do our part to help the world where we could in our small little way. And so yeah, with that small intro, I'll go ahead and just intro the company a little bit, talk about what we do and why this matters for education, and then we'll let Parker take it from there. But like you can see on the screen here, Seek, we work with retail companies actually is our primary business, e-commerce companies, anybody that sells something online, a physical product online. And we use the power of augmented reality so that people, when they're shopping on their phone and using their camera, can see a product in their space without having to download an app or have to buy expensive augmented reality or virtual reality, software or hardware or anything. They just use their phone, they use their device, and it just works. And so if you go to any of these websites, you'll find, and many, many more, you'll find our technology being used on those websites. And what we really have focused on from the very beginning is trying to make it easy as possible for everybody involved. Augmented reality is a complicated technology, an expensive technology. That if these companies try to take it on their own and do it on their own, then they are, potentially spending millions of dollars. I know that some companies out there have spent literally $10 million building their own augmented reality solutions. On top of that, schools, to get kind of towards the education side of things, I know that a lot of schools have bought HoloLenses and Magic Leap devices and all kinds of different tablets and things out there, and trying to buy this software and hardware that can allow this immersive technology to come into the classroom. But the problem is the technology changes so fast. So what we do at Seek is we act kind of as this glue in the middle of a big, complicated ecosystem, and we try to make it really, really easy. We take the content that you'll see inside of the Seek platform, and then when you just click on it, it works. Doesn't matter if you're on a desktop to see it in 3D. It doesn't matter if you're on a phone to see it in AR. It doesn't matter if you're on a Magic Leap or some other device. We support basically any sort of device out there that can view augmented reality, and that makes it really, really easy. So last year we said, hey, you know what? My background, actually, I used to work for a company called Chegg, and then for another company called English 3. I've actually been in the education tech space for about 7 years prior to starting this company. And so education is kind of my background. And so I always kind of knew that we could use augmented reality in this space. And we finally, decided to make it happen after we, really established ourselves in the marketplace with this. And now we have this incredibly easy, inexpensive, and powerful solution for the education market, for teachers and for administrators and for parents, even at home. For parents, it's $3.99 a month for them to use this for their kids. It should be accessible to basically anybody, but it can bring things to life in a way that really isn't possible in another way. And it can be done for very, very cheaply. So we're really excited about that. We're going to let Parker take it from here. He is the head of Seek Education, and he's worked hard on getting us to where we are today. And I'll chime in here and there, but for the most part, he's the man. So take it away, Parker.
Perfect. Thank you for that intro. And thank you everyone else for joining us today. We really appreciate taking the time. We hope that this will be a beneficial dialogue for applying augmented reality to your classroom. And with that being said, we understand that the participants in this webinar come from a variety of backgrounds. We know that we have administrators, we have teachers. We know that also the experience with augmented reality comes from a variety of backgrounds as well. So we're going to start from the very basics and explain from there. And so this may be a review for you if you're familiar with augmented reality, and especially in the educational space. But if not, this should serve to help going forward for the future for understanding this incredible technology. So augmented reality, at its core is adding layers of digital information on top of our physical world. So augmented reality, commonly talked about with virtual reality, is an artificial environment that creates something, an object, an animation, a sound on our physical environment and adds to it. So that's where it gets the term artificial or augmented, I'm sorry, because it augments to our physical environment. Now, the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality is pretty simple. Virtual reality, the core of virtual reality is that you are immersed in an entirely virtual world. So everything you are seeing is virtual. It's not your physical world. It's not your real world. And it's hard to differentiate between the two. Virtual reality does use headsets or glasses or goggles, and like John mentioned earlier, that expensive hardware. Now, augmented reality is a mix of real world and virtual world. And so you are interacting with your physical environment, but also with those objects placed on top of it, like I mentioned before. Augmented reality uses smartphones, tablets, other mobile devices, and desktops with the 3D models like John mentioned earlier. And so that's kind of just the distinguishing factors between the two, just in case anyone was unfamiliar with the differences. Those terms are going to be thrown around a lot in the educational space going forward, especially with distance learning. So it's important to know.
One quick comment just before you move on. So if there are questions, there is here in Zoom a feature for a Q&A. Just you'll see on your little control panel on the Zoom panel, it's there. You can also just put it right in the chat where a lot of you have already said hi. Feel free to ask questions throughout, and if we can get to it right then, great. If not, then we'll get to it at the end.
Great, thank you for that. It's important to mention. Like he said, we will get to all questions at the end if we don't see it during the presentation, so feel free to ask them. So as I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir here with administrators and teachers, but everyone knows the studies that have been done for active learning and the benefits that come from active learning. Here's a little infographic that basically says a typical classroom environment, which is see and hear, the students retain about 50% of that. 70% of what they say and write, and that's why a lot of the push for group activities and group discussions have been happening in the educational space recently, and 90% of what they do or what they experience. So active learning has been studied by a lot of higher education departments like this Department of Psychology by the University of Chicago. And the results of their study, I won't read it all, but to highlight it, one of the important, interesting things is reading about a concept in a textbook or even seeing a demonstration in class is not the same as physically experience what you are learning about. And then another study done by the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences said that students are 1.5 times less likely to fail when they are involved in active learning. I'm sure that you guys have experienced this in your classrooms, and I won't hone in on it too much because I'm sure you're familiar with it, but the active learning is crucial to retention for students, especially in the early development years. Now, to help with engagement, to help with active learning, we as educators and teachers and administrators have created and used a lot of applications as visual aids. So here we have an example of an infographic, we have a PowerPoint slide, we have a typical picture, and then
structure,
I'll click
which
this
was
and we
replaced
have
in turn
a
by circles of massive
video of
standing
Stonehenge
stones.
as well. And the importance of that is these are great visual aids. They definitely help to engage students. As you can see in this other infographic to the right, especially towards the end of class when retention drops from 70% to 20%. And so a lot of the times these infographics and these visual aids help. But now I'm gonna allow us to experience the difference with augmented reality and how that's not only a visual aid, but it is an experiential aid. So this right here is going to be a video that I took on my iPhone It was very simple in a room next to our office of Stonehenge. And I want you to compare this augmented reality experience to the videos and images that we just witnessed of Stonehenge in the slide beforehand.
By the way, for those of you watching, you don't have to just watch him do it. You can actually try this QR code right now. If you just open your camera on your iPhone or on your Android, it might work on your camera. You might have to open a QR code reader, but you can just scan that QR code and this same Stonehenge experience will just pop up really quickly. And I don't know how well you'll be able to see it. I know that my phone's going to be small, but one of the things that I want to point out is while Parker's doing it on a desk here, and this is really cool, you can actually zoom in on this and make it life size so that I can actually stand up and walk around Stonehenge with my camera as if I was actually there. And I'm using the phone as my viewport into that. It's really, really fun to be able to literally stand up, and you almost need a whole room to be able to see it at real, well, you need much bigger to see it at life size because Stonehenge is huge. But the point is that you can actually make it life size and walk around. It's really fun.
Exactly. So I want to encourage everyone on this webinar to scan that QR code quickly and experience you'll experience exactly what the video just showed, but it'd be great to show it in your own space and to be able to truly experience that. If you do have any technical difficulties, the number one primary cause of that is usually just device compatibility. AR works with newer devices, usually 4 to 5 year old and up, iPhones and Androids. And so if you're having any problems with that, then contact us, mention it in the Q&A section, and we'll discuss that either individually or later on at the end. But as I was mentioning before, and as Jon showcased, this is just a completely different experiential aid compared to the typical visual aids that are so commonly used in the classroom right now. And now I want to talk a little bit about Seek Education's platform. We saw a model we saw an impressive model, but now let's dive into how can we use that and how is Seek Education's platform set up. So Seek Education is the world's first web-based augmented reality platform for education. We're going to talk a little bit about what Seek Education is and then what Seek Education is not, and then we'll dive into some of the details a little bit more in the following slide. But Seek Education is the most engaging, immersive, and complete supplemental teaching resource available in education. What I mean by complete is that it offers a variety of subjects. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Seek Education is completely web-based. So all you need is a smartphone, tablet, or computer. And luckily for educators nowadays, most students, regardless of the age level, have accessibility to a smartphone, tablet, or computer. And a lot of classrooms and schools have devices in their classrooms available for the teachers as well. Going along with that, this isn't something where every single student would need a device. This could be shared in groups. Like we mentioned before in the infographic, group discussions increase that retention rate. So this is amazing in groups as well. If you have an iPad or a phone for 5 or 6 students, then that works perfectly. The platform is very easy to implement. As you have seen, if you've played around with it at all, and we're going to show further today how easy it is to implement. The things that Seek Education is not, and that a lot of the times other platforms get confusing within the AR and VR spaces, it's not an app, it's not a downloadable software or a piece of hardware. So like we said before, this is augmented reality, there's no goggles needed. Augmented reality right now is primarily app-based, and like I introduced Jon, the CEO of Seek, the leader in online web-based AR. This Seek Education platform is as well. There's no software, no app. This is not intended to be used as a curriculum or replacement for formal education. This is a teacher's aid. There is not a specific curriculum based in our platform. You will not find specific lesson plans. You can customize your own lesson plans, but you will not find detailed lesson plans because this is not a curriculum. And this is also not costly to integrate, rather that be in the classroom, schools, or homes. Most VR, especially with all the headsets and goggles, is very costly, and it doesn't scale well for schools or districts. So now we're going to dive a little deeper into that. Seek Education's platform, how we differentiate ourselves from the other augmented reality platforms available in education. So like I mentioned before, our educational platform is appless, it's web-based. Most educational AR platforms, you need an app, and that just creates a whole sort of problems that can happen with the school needing to approve the apps and the parents needing to approve each app. And if an app is going to be downloaded on a student's phone or device, that being approved by the school and district level. And also apps need to be constantly updated. They're constantly changing, new features are coming in, and you have to update them. It creates a hassle. No new software is required for the district, school, or classroom with Seek Education. Updating software is also a hassle, and it takes training and time to become fluent in the software language. All Seek Education is web-based, and we all have familiarity using websites. The Seek Education platform is also different because most high-quality AR platforms out there, and there are AR platforms for education, most of them cover a single subject. So for example, there are really good companies that cover augmented reality for anatomy, or augmented reality for biology, and you download their app and you can view their anatomy models or their biology models on the app. Seek Education is a single platform that helps to meet all of the needs of the school. So some teachers teach multiple different subjects, and obviously there's all subjects that are in school. So this is a single platform that meets all of those needs for all of the different subjects. And the last differentiator is with the possibility of a visual learning future with the pandemic and all the uncertainty that is going on right now. A lot of schools have already come out and said that they're going to be doing distance learning for the next future, and a lot of schools are to be determined on that. But with that in place, teachers and students going into another grade, going in with another teacher, are going to have to be extremely careful of how they implement new technologies or softwares or applications, because there's not going to be face-to-face training that can happen in the classroom where the teacher shows the students exactly how to use it. So any new implementation, any new software that is applied in these next possibly 6 months to a year, who knows how long, will have to be extremely easy to use and user-friendly for all the students so that it can be implemented at scale. And that's exactly what Seek Education's platform provides. These are the subjects that are currently on the platform. The screenshot to the left, the image to the left, is a screenshot of when you're in the platform. This is the space field trip section. And so we'll talk about it later, but you can click on Apollo 11 hatch and the AR model is right there. That's how user-friendly it is. We are growing our database of AR models daily. New subjects and labels and sounds and experience are being added. So not only do we have models, but we can add sounds to these models, and we can add labels to the models, which is specifically helpful for things like anatomy if you want to label the different muscles, or you can see the uses on a lot of different subjects with the labels. But just to reiterate, we are constantly detailing and adding more to our platform. And that's one of the best things about having it be web-based, is that all of these updates, all of the updates and changes are instant. There's no updating the software. There's no changing anything around. Your platform will just continue to grow on a daily basis every time you log in. We also have a request a model feature. So if there's not a model that you need for a specific subject or a specific class, request the model from us and we can make that happen for you. So now I want to go into a couple different ways of how to implement our platform, because it may be overwhelming at the start if you've logged into our platform. There's tons of augmented reality models. They're categorized by subject, by age group, by different experiences. But even still, like I said before, we're not a curriculum, so you may see tons of models and not know exactly how do I implement this. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next little bit. One of the best and most effective ways to implement our platform is through the AR virtual field trip. So basically an AR virtual field trip promotes an experiential environment for learning, and it allows students to see exactly what they just learned about in class through augmented reality in the classroom or in their home or wherever they may be. And the teacher can obviously take their students all over the world. One of the things I like about that Stonehenge model is you can't even get close to Stonehenge now. It's all roped off and you have to see it from afar. So you're able to see all these things without ever having to leave the classroom. And sometimes with views that you wouldn't even get if you were there in person. Like the Mona Lisa, you're not going to be behind 50 rows of people when it's in augmented reality. So a virtual field trip is an effective and very engaging and cheap solution to help retain that information and create an experience so that retention rate goes from that 50 typical average percent to that higher 90% when we do experience and take part in that active learning. So now we're going to, as a group and as a webinar, run through, we're not going to go through a whole virtual field trip, but this is a virtual field trip to ancient Egypt that we've created and that's available on the platform. We're going to show you an example of how this could be implemented into your class. So let's say that you are learning in 6th grade social studies about ancient Egypt and the whole unit is finished and it's a Friday and you want to take all of your students on a virtual field trip to help retain and just experience all of that knowledge that you just learned about, especially with great monuments and history lessons. This is incredible because it's one thing to see the Great Wall of China on a picture or video, but it's another thing to experience it. So why doesn't everyone, if you haven't already, scan that QR code and you should see an augmented reality experience of this piece of artwork, the Union of Upper and Lower Egypt. It's a large stone wall. So we'll pause there for a second and give everyone the chance, and then we'll move on in a little bit.
This is so cool. I love seeing all this. I don't see all the content until Parker pulls it up and takes us on a field trip. But this thing, so I'm just sitting here in my office and it's probably, I don't know, 6 feet tall, maybe 7 feet tall, but it's a big, huge wall and the quality is amazing. I mean, it looks just as good as if you were actually there. I mean, I could take a picture of this and send it to somebody and then tell them that I was in Egypt and I actually took a picture of it. It's pretty awesome.
So thank you, John. I think this is one of my favorite models because of the quality. I agree. Just to clarify with all of the teachers, this let's say that this PowerPoint existed as a social studies 6th grade teacher. She already had this PowerPoint made. He or she already had the PowerPoint made, this learning about ancient Egypt. These QR codes could be easily implemented into any PowerPoint that's already existing that you have. So your curriculum doesn't have to change. You just copy that quick QR code into whatever the slide deck or handout or PowerPoint that you have that already exists. So this would be kind of a made up PowerPoint that a teacher would have. Now we're going to go, this is another slide about the pharaoh. We're going to jump to this one because it's one of my other favorites. Let's scan the top QR code. This one's for Nefertiti. It's the bust of Nefertiti. It's a great model, and like I mentioned before, the lines to see this in the museum are usually insane. And so we can see this right here if we're learning about art or if we're learning about Nefertiti, we can scan it. So if you want to scan that top code, that should pull that up, and it's a pretty impressive model. I'll talk a little bit and jump to the next slides while you guys are experiencing that. Like I mentioned, or if you just joined the webinar, if you have any questions or if anything is not working, feel free to comment in the Q&A section or the chat, and we will address that at the end during the Q&A, or personally we'll reach out to you. This is an incredible model. Now this gives you almost a virtual reality experience on your phone. This takes you inside one of the ancient Egyptian temples. Scan the code on the left. The left one is a little bit better than the one on the right. They're both different. They're both amazing, but I like the one on the left. This is the Temple of Khonsu in Luxor, Egypt. And this gives you the experience that you are in the edifice and that you can walk around, you can move closer or farther while you're in the actual building, and you can actually walk out the door and see the outside of it as well. So I encourage everyone to try this QR code on the left to experience this. The experiences that you can have with augmented reality have severely increased over the last couple of years. They're incredible now, and the definition and detail and accuracy of these models is amazing. And being able to see that right after you learn about Egyptian temples, that's something that kids don't forget. That's something that you'll go home and tell your parents about, or that you'll have a lasting image in your mind of what an ancient Egyptian temple looks like. Most people will not get to experience that in their lifetime. And so to have students be able to experience this on a wide scale level is incredible.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see my phone, but for those of you that maybe aren't getting it to work, but right here, I am literally in this building. I mean, I could spend a long time in here. Like you could have your students spend 20, 30 minutes in here, like reading through everything and looking at things, looking for specific symbols. You could give them, say, hey, you know, find these 10 things inside of this temple. But it's almost as if you were actually there. It's really, really cool. Quality on this one's really good too. Love it.
Perfect. This is a Sphinx, for example. We'll skip this slide just for sake of time, but this is another slide in the PowerPoint. And then we'll finish off with this slide. If you're talking about ancient Egyptian art, you could show them actual ancient Egyptian art right on the table. So the QR code on the left will pull up the pot that is shown in that image above. And one thing I like to do, and I purposely put very similar, if not the exact object, the image on this slide, is so you can experience the difference of seeing that piece of art, which students could quickly gloss over, or experiencing it right on your table. So that was on purpose in it to show the contrast between augmented reality and the other visual aids that are so common in the educational space right now. So this is an example of a virtual field trip. We won't keep going with all the other slides, but I wanted to showcase one use of Seek Education's platform is copying these QR codes, creating virtual field trips that you can go out to outside or into the gym or even in your classroom and go on a 15 to 30 minute virtual field trip with your class and explore all over the world. Another way that we can implement Seek Education is, let's say you don't have the time to do a virtual field trip, but during the last 15 or 20 minutes, when you start to see that notice that your students' attention is starting to decrease, we put a QR code into one of the slides at the end, and it gives them something to look forward to. Maybe every day they know that one of the slides is going to have a QR code that they can experience this with. So this right here is the screenshot on the left is a screenshot from our platform. If you go into any model, you will click view model and it will pull up the model. Then you'll click view in your space and that QR code will pop up. You guys have surely experienced this if you've been following along and doing these AR models on the website. So when you get to this page of the QR code, if you right click or if you're using a laptop, double click, then you'll see the classic options of save, image, or copy. That's all you would have to do to implement this into any sort of teaching material that you have, whether that be PowerPoint handout, email, whatever it is, the most effective way that you teach. The QR code can be implemented and your students could scan that just like you are right now with those models. They don't have to have an account. They don't have to be registered in the system or anything. They just have to have a device that can scan the QR code. And this helps if you don't want to do a full blown out virtual field trip, but you want to experience something quickly, say for 3 to 5 minutes towards the end of class to keep that attention or to really make a dramatic effect on a certain topic. Another way that this can be implemented is in the next week or two, we are launching a feature where you will be able to create saved list or subject list or favorites just by the click of the button on the dashboard. So you'll be able to click copy QR code or save to ancient Egypt category that you create. You'll be able to create your own categories where you can save specific models so you don't have to go back looking for them later or typing them in. It's basically your own personal dashboard and curriculum that you can refer to going forward. Now, this right here is, you may have scanned that QR code, it should work, but if you're not getting the experiences for some reason, this is the model that will load when you get a compatible device in the video showing below. So it's just incredible to me the detail. This is the Curiosity Mars rover that recently found ancient lakes on Mars. So very interesting. Now, another way that you can implement this, and this might work better at higher levels of education, maybe middle school to high school levels, is if you want your students to have individual access. So with the plan, you as the teacher can just have the account and have the QR codes and implement it into your teaching, or you can give each student a personal account, and this doesn't add anything to the cost, it just gives them freedom. Some of the benefits of this implementation, if each student has their individual account and login, is for project-based learning. If you're doing projects on, let's say, space, and you want to give your students more freedom and availability to see all of the models that we have on space and choose a model, do the report on that specific model or object, then this is a great use for it. This is also great for virtual distance learning. We won't be in the classroom. In the fall, if things continue the way they are, we may or may not, depending on where you live as well. So if this is the case, this would also be very helpful for virtual distance learning to promote that individual creativity and student engagement, even if it may be from the home. So those are the main ways I see the students having their own access. In the classroom, it will probably be a lot more streamlined and efficient if the teacher is directing where the students go, because they may get sidetracked and start clicking off on different models. But if you are doing a project, or if you want to apply this or let them have access to it, but in the classroom you use your own QR codes and have a more structured approach, you could also apply a hybrid approach to the platform. And so that's pretty cool. This is a quick quote from William Arthur Ward. The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, and the great teacher inspires. I know that coming out of school, I wish that I would have had more experiences. In the classes that I did, I can still remember them. In the classes that I didn't have experiences, I couldn't tell you one thing about them. So I think it's so important that the great teacher inspires, and augmented reality and visualizing these things that we normally wouldn't be able to see so easily and so streamlined will inspire every student. I know I wish I would have been able to have that technology at an earlier age. With our platform, we are offering a few promotions right now with the coronavirus and with everything going on. We want to give back, and we've had our platform available for free for 3 months since the outbreak. So that's one way. Another way is we want to offer the deal of, with any 1-year subscription for a classroom or for a school, or even for individual, if you're a parent or homeschool student or parent, we are waiving the cost of June through August. So this will allow you to get Seek Education implemented and running, and make sure everything's going smoothly before school starts up in August or September, whenever it is that your school starts. So essentially, this is a 20% discount of the 2.5 months that we're taking off a year subscription for Seek Education's platform. That way you can have 2.5 months to 3 months of experience in the platform. All your teachers can get those QR codes and licenses into their decks, into their PowerPoints, into their resources and materials before school even starts on day 1. And we're also offering free teacher-wide AR implementation training. So a lot of teachers maybe don't know what augmented reality is. Maybe they're not as tech savvy as others. So with every school purchase, we will offer a call like this where we train all of the teachers. They can jump on the call and see, and we can troubleshoot with them any problems that may happen. We can give them all the details on how exactly to implement it, how to use it, what devices they can use. But this is just another perk that we're offering right now with this subscription. Now, we'd like to turn the time to any Q&A, any questions that you have. Please comment them in that Q&A box. Below in the chat, you will find a link. I'm gonna put the link in right now, or you can scan the QR code that will take you to a contact form, and that contact form will allow you to get a quote instantly from us and further this discussion if you want to get Seek Education's platform implemented into your school. It's an incredible opportunity to be able to do this with all the things that are going on. I think that augmented reality is going to play a huge role in the future. So please click the link or scan the QR code, contact us. Not only if you want to quote, but if you have any other further questions, if you'd like an individual demo or a meeting with perhaps you're a teacher and you'd like us to talk with your administrators to get this implemented on school-wide, any sort of contact that you want, you can mention that in the link or on this QR code. So give us a shout. I will put that in the chat right now so that you can click on that link.
So I also just added my LinkedIn in the chat. So anybody that would like to connect with me, feel free to do so. Happy to answer questions individually. There were a few questions asked during the webinar, and I already answered those, Parker. So we're caught up. It looks like that, and I'm not seeing any other ones pop up. So we might be finished up here. But again, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Parker, you said you were adding a, yeah, there we go, education.csr.com/webinar contact page. So feel free to do that. Looks like we have a question from Robin Pence. Other than looking at the objects in the augmented reality creations, are there additional layers of information embedded? Will there be opportunities for student-teacher AR creation through the Seek platform in the future? This is a great question. And so there's a couple parts to it. So the first one is, are there additional layers of information embedded? Yes, there can be. We actually just barely added in a feature to be able to label things. Like Parker was talking about earlier, let's say you're showing a model of the human body and you want to label all the different bones and everything. We can certainly make that happen. So you'll be able to go in and actually edit those as well. As far as opportunities for student and teacher AR creation, that is actually a big focus of the future. We do want people to be able to upload their own models into there, to be able to edit things and to be able to start playing with 3D creation. We actually have a full service studio. It's called Seek Studio that we use on the e-commerce side. And in the future, we will open up some of this to the education side so that you'll be able to upload things and change things and kind of build your own curriculum if you find 3D models from other places that you have out there, or if you want your students to be able to do that. We also, as a side note, if any of you in here or that are listening are 3D educators or in the augmented reality space and you want your students to be able to have access to a good platform to be able to learn how to use it, we do offer Seek Studio for free for educators to begin to learn how to use this platform so that when they graduate from college or from high school or whatever they're in, they could go into the workforce and already know how to use Seek Studio and be proficient in those things. So feel free to reach out for that if you have any questions. Again, my LinkedIn is there, and so you can reach out to me directly on that. But again, to get the deal that Parker said today, click on his link that he shared. And then we've got another question here, it looks like from Laura Butler. I teach language arts. Any great ideas for using AR in this content area? Can you request a virtual field trip? How frequently are new ones added? All those are great questions. So I'll answer the second and third part first. So yes, absolutely. Please request whatever you want. We're happy to, in fact, I believe in the platform, the Seek Education platform, there's a place to request new models as well. So if there's specific content that we're missing, please tell us, right? The teachers of the world know education way better than we do. We try to take as much feedback as possible. And then if 100 teachers are asking for one specific thing, then yeah, we're gonna put priority on that. We're gonna make sure that it gets up as soon as possible. New field trips will be added probably weekly, and new models are added daily, and if not multiple times a day. And then as far as the language arts component of things, I don't know how much value there is necessarily in looking at a word in AR but there are definitely opportunities where potentially you're reading something, right? For me, if I was reading a book, Where the Red Fern Grows or whatever, if I'm reading some novel or something, there's probably artwork out there. There's probably visual aids that tie to the reading material that could obviously be added in to say, hey, you just read about this. Now let's see what, there was this scene that happened in in this city or in this town square or whatever. Let's pull up an AR version of that area, of that town, of that room, or whatever it is. So I think there's definitely opportunities in language arts. Also, maybe if you're talking about some sort of like a visual language like Chinese or something where there's characters and things, and maybe you could show a little bit more like that. There could be some opportunities there for some interaction, but I think mostly it would be related to just visual aids that relate to the content that you're tackling. So good question. Another question from Rose Ann Daltoso. If you live in a city and reading about country life, maybe you could show that. Yeah, perfect. She's just answering Laura and giving some ideas there, but that's exactly right. It's just how can you bring what you're reading, what you're talking about to life? I think that's great. So German, I want to do this bilingual, Spanish to start. Can I be involved? Absolutely, German. Please reach out to me. Let me know how you'd like to help, and we can figure that out. And by the way, for those of you who connect with me on LinkedIn, you can also connect with me. You can just send me an email. It's just jon@seekxr.com. It's Jon, Jon@seekxr.com. I'll put it in the chat as well, just so that people know. Right there. There we go. And then Sean, are you able to access virtual tours from the Seek EDU site? I can only see models. They should be there. Parker, can you answer that for Sean? Where are the field trips?
The field trips are being uploaded to the platform today.
So they're not there yet. Okay.
They're not on the platform right now. The virtual field trips will not look exactly like the virtual field trip we just experienced, because every teacher is going to have different content. Every teacher is not going to teach about the same things when they're talking about ancient Egypt. So they're just going to have the models available that we've grouped into typically around 10 models that have to do with one specific topic or group of areas. So for example, we have virtual field trips right now in the following areas: ancient Greece, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt. We have space. We have world monuments where you can go to all over the large world monuments. And we will be releasing those models. All of the models are in our platform right now. We are just releasing the feature of the virtual field trip where you'll be able to find them right on the dashboard of your homepage. They will just be the models, and then you can copy the QR codes, and you can personally create your own virtual field trip with your own text and your own facts, because every grade is going to be different. Where you are in the country or where you are in the world is going to be different. So we don't want to create templates that teachers feel like they have to use with our own facts. We want them to be able to customize them. So we provide the models, and you guys do what you do best and continue to provide that curriculum and knowledge and information. I can send out the virtual field trip to ancient Egypt that we ran through to everyone that was in this webinar. I can send that out right after this as well.
Yeah, that would be great. And we are, this is a live product, right? It's a living product is what I mean, meaning it is going to change over time. As if the field trips are a very popular feature, then we might start putting out, just like Parker put together this beautiful, amazing field trip to Egypt, which I think is really cool. There are dozens and dozens of those that can come out. And we might just make the PowerPoints available for download through the platform as well at some point. So we appreciate any feedback in that regard. If you say, hey, that is something that would make this really, really valuable for me, great, please let us know that, and we will put forth the effort and make it happen so that you can just download these things and yeah, it's a template, customize it, put what you want, make it appropriate for your grade level, and then you're good to go. So, so great feedback, Sean. Looks like Robin Pence likes that idea. So, perfect. Any other questions? We've gotten through all the ones that have been asked to now. If not, then we can probably close this up, Parker.
Perfect. We'll give everyone a minute or two to ask any questions they may be thinking about or that they've wanted to ask. And then if not, at 12:50, if there's no questions, we can log off. But thanks again so much for joining. I hope this has been helpful. Please reach out. We're happy to chat. We're happy to talk about implementations into your school or into your classroom. Continue to use the free trial for the rest of June. One piece of advice I will say is if you are going to try to create a virtual field trip right now on your free account, your free trial account, all of those QR codes will not work when that free trial ends. Your new account will be created when you have a subscription. So if you're going to plan on creating some virtual field trips to use in the next couple of weeks, that's great. Go ahead and do it, feel free. Just be aware that you will have to do those QR codes if you created the virtual field trip from your free account. So that's just one thing to be aware. The more reason to get the subscription, start now so that you don't have to worry about any of that. But yeah, all the QR codes that are in the platform right now, we have to do this to protect ourselves from all the free trials that are being used right now, will be changed come July 1st. So.
And Laura, just to answer your question, if you have access already, it's free right now. If you don't, go to education.seekxr.com and sign up, and it's free. Everything is free through the end of June. So feel free to jump in and play around with the platform. Thank you, Robin. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.